Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to come back here for our DP webinar. And for this month, the topic that we will discuss is the 5 bullet points of the new Chinese law and regulation in 2019. We will discuss about the legal point of view, but as well we will discuss on the finance and taxation point of view. We have here two fantastic professionals from DP Group, which is our Mrs. Peng, and we have also our Devin from PHC Tax and Accounting. Said so, I would like our Peng Ling to join us and go through the presentation. Of course, as always, being many of you already our clients, we will go directly on the topic of today's webinar. And if there are any questions, you can take a note and we will discuss at the end of the presentation. Without saying any other words, I would like Peng Ling to join me here. And in the meantime, to our many friends that are watching us, I kindly ask you to put mute on your microphone while you are joining us in the webinar. Thank you so much. Please, Peng Ling, come here and let's give a big round of applause.
Thank you everybody. So good afternoon. And today I'm going to do a brief introduction on the 5 most important amendments on in the legal field happens in 2019. The new foreign investment law, new negative list, the revision to the anti-unfair competition law, the revision to the trademark law, and the judicial interpretation on the company law. Regarding the new foreign investment law, which was promulgated on March 15th of this year, will come into effect as of January 1st of the next year. And the new law will replace the 3 primary laws regulating foreign invested enterprises in China. And one of the most important principles of the new law is that it has established the principle of equal treatment for foreign invested enterprises and both domestic enterprises. For all the foreign investments, for all the foreign investors, the pre-establishment national treatment plus the negative list will apply when they want to do investment in China. And the new law also provides the general guidance on the promotion, protection, and the management. I think after the promulgation of the new law, the most important, the most effective entities will be the joint ventures existing in China. For them, they shall modify the structure, the highest power organ of their company, from the board of directors to the shareholder meetings. So, nevertheless, the new law has provided for a 5-year grace period for all the joint ventures to do the modification. Okay, the next one. Following the modification of the new foreign investment law is a new negative list. Through the new negative list, we can see that the number of the items has reduced from 48 to 14 positions in the national list, 45 to 37 in the free trade zone list, and no new item has been added. The new negative list further opens up the services, the financial services, agriculture, mining, and the manufacturing sectors, which we can see that the Chinese government has continuously opened up its market to attract the foreign investors. Next one is the revision to the anti-unfair competition law. And the revision has made the expansion on the application to abuses by employees and former employees. Previously, when the company tries to seek for liability for the confidentiality obligation, violation obligation of the employees, the court normally will request the confidentiality agreement signed between the company and the employee. But the new revision provides the ground that even if there is no confidentiality agreement signed between the employee and the company may still seek for the violation obligation due to the statutory obligation. Okay. Further, the revision increased the limits of the punitive damages and also the statutory damages arising from the violation of the confidentiality obligation. And last but not the least, the revision shifted the burden of proof from the plaintiff to the defendant. After the promulgation of the revision, currently the plaintiff just needs to provide the preliminary evidences regarding the violation by the infringer, and the defendant is obliged to provide that the trade secret falls outside of the scope of the law, or the defendant did not commit the infringement at all. Together with the revision to the anti-unfair competition law is the revision to the trademark law. This revision is purposed at regulating the bad faith on the trademark application. It has provided that the bad faith will be regarded as the strong ground for the rejection for trademark applications and invalidation of already registered trademarks. That is to say, if any entity or natural person tries to register a trademark without the intention to use it, it will be regarded as bad faith, and then such application will be rejected by the authority. And for the already registered trademarks, the right owner will have the strong ground to apply for the invalidation. The revision also increased the limits of the punitive damages and as well as the statutory damages. The revision further restricted any trademark agencies to accept the trademark registration application from the entities or natural persons who are acting in bad faith. Last one, but not the least one, is the judicial interpretations on the company law. It consists of related party transaction, severance compensation for directors, time limit for profit distribution to shareholders, and mechanism for resolving major shareholder disagreements. Regarding the related party transactions, generally speaking, it is not forbidden by the law. But when the director, supervisor, actual controller, senior management of the company involved into the transactions and that which harms the company's profit, it will be regarded as illegal. So the interpretation provided that to define whether a related party transaction is illegal or not, shareholder resolution or articles of association cannot justify the transaction's legality, but whether the transaction is fair and whether the company's interest has been harmed by the transaction shall be taken into consideration. Regarding severance compensation for directors, previously there is no law ruling the severance pay for the directors, but the interpretation provided the ground for the directors to seek for severance pay when they are removed from their position. But however, the interpretation did not provide the details on how to calculate the severance pay. But the directors, the removal reasons of the directors, the remaining term of office of the directors, and the remuneration will be taken into consideration. The next one is time limit for profit distribution. As you, many of you already know that in order to distribute profit, first of all, you need a shareholders resolution. But the interpretation says that if the time limit stated in the shareholder resolution exceeds 1 year, anyway, the profit shall be distributed within 1 year upon the shareholder resolution is made. Because normally, companies and profit is calculated based on annual basis. The last one is a mechanism for resolving the shareholders' disagreement. The interpretation encourages all the disagreement among the shareholders to be resolved through an amicable way. That is to say that no matter shares transfer, decrease of registered capital, demerger of the company, as long as the procedure does not violate the mandatory law, everything can be solved through negotiation. Okay, the above is today's introduction of the 5 important amendments in Chinese law. Next, I will pass the place to Devin Li from PhD Advisory, who will introduce you the amendment in fiscal field. Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Devin Li and I'm from PhD Advisory Group, which is also one of the company under DP Group, and we provide services for business consulting, financial supervision, internal audit, and also merger and acquisition and extraordinary activities. You can also outsource of your accounting and tax compliance, treasury, payroll management, all kinds of services that we can provide for a company. Today, I will talk about income tax, which is a really radical change in 2019, because whenever Donald Trump takes power in White House, Donald Trump starts to use a lot of radical policies to their country in order to attract more companies in America. So that's because of the policy they made in America, they put a lot of pressures on all the other countries as well, because you have a better policy over here, company would rather open companies in America instead of other places. So in 2019, China started to regulate new policies in China. First, let's talk about personal income. Before 2019, the personal income is the individual tax income is really complicated. If you earn salaries from your office and monthly payments, you're gonna pay for this 3% to 45% in 7 different levels. And if you are a writer, if you are independent services, you also pay tax based on different tax rates. But in 2019, your income will become one in whole as a comprehensive income. All the income you receive pays according to 3% to 45% in the same level. In a sense, this is much easier and much understandable for our ordinary peoples, right? Secondly, the items. I think the first one is really important for foreigners, because before, if your company is in America and you work in China, so you receive payment from American company. Whenever you receive the money, we don't have to consider, we have to pay tax because your payment is from overseas. But in 2019, when you make the payment, if you stay in China for longer than 183 days, you have to pay tax as well. It's a little bit of difference compared to the year before 2019. And we also have the case when there's an American company, there's 4 Chinese people working in China, and they receive payments from American. And because they were doing really well in China, so the company in the headquarters decided they're gonna do more bonus for those 4 employees. But the employees didn't know they have to pay tax in 2019, so they pay a lot of fine because of this bonus. So this is really a heads up for people who work in China. The second way is the rate. Before 2019, our rate is like whenever your income is 3,000 RMB, 3,500 RMB, you don't have to pay tax. But in 2019, the limit has been gone up. It's become 5,000. So if your monthly salary is less or equal to 5,000, you don't have to pay any tax. That's a very visible change for other people to see this kind of regulation. But actually, more important for this one, deduction. Before 2019, the deduction is really minor for people who go to work every day. But in 2019, if you have a child, you can deduct 1,000 RMB every month. If you have older families, let's say your parents are older than 60 years old, you can deduct 2,000 monthly. And also, if you want to pursue further education, let's say I want to pursue a law certificate, I want to study, buy books and register for classes, I can also deduct for 400 per month. So all the changes in the deduction can really play a huge role in your income tax. So let's take an example, quick example. Let's say Mr. Zhang monthly income is 10,000 yuan. And the company pays 1,000 for the insurance and the provident funds, and his father is more than 60 years old. He has a son, which is in college right now, and he also pays mortgage every month. Now we know the base is 10,000 yuan for the monthly salary. When he paid the income tax, it's only 15 RMB. Why is that? Because the base minus the child's education, which is 1,000, and also minus 2,000 for the support for elderly, because his parents are older than 60 years old. And also minus the mortgage, which is 1,500 for his house payment. So when the taxable income becomes 5,500, now when he has to pay the tax, his income tax is only 50 RMB. It's like less than a mil. Secondly, let's talk about the tax on the corporation. I think this is more important for the enterprise in China. In 2019, if you have a pre-tax profit, so let me explain a little bit what is a pre-tax profit.
I'm sorry, can you switch off your microphone? Because we can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, let's continue. And in 2000, let me explain a little bit for pre-tax profit. I think we still have a little bit of noise, I'm sorry. But if you can hear me, you can just leave the comments on. If there's a noise that you don't hear clearly, you can say that. Okay. And what is pre-tax profit? Basically, it's similar to the profit. Your revenue minus your cost, that's your profit in accounting sense. But if it's in tax, because from tax perspective, the revenue might not be the same as the accounting perspective, right? So from tax view, your revenue minus your cost is your pre-tax profit. So it's really simple to understand. And now compare 2019 to 2018. If you have a profit, let's say less or equal to 500,000, your taxable income is 50% on the base, then your income tax rate is 20%. In a short way, if you have a profit for 500,000, your tax rate is 10%. Times 10%, that's your income tax. And then in 2019, if your pre-tax profit is 1 million, your income tax rate in a short way is only 5%. So that's a radical change because the number has been doubled, but the tax rate has been decreased. But if you have a revenue which is larger than 1 million but less or equal to 3 million, your tax rate is basically only 10%, which is the same as when you have a revenue over here. So in 2019, the government simply encourages the small companies to start new company because they have so many preferential policies. Let's just say if your company has a revenue which is larger than 3 million. Sorry, this is a mistake. It should be larger, and it's my mistake. And if your company has a revenue or profit, let's say profit more than 3 million, your tax rate is 25%. If let's say the profit is 3,100,000, you gotta pay tax for 775,000 for the year. But if we see compare at here, if you have 3 million, you'll have to 250. So that's a really big change, right? For the items, in 2019, when we buy equipment, before we buy, let's say, a chair, a big production equipment, it costs us 1 or 2 million or 3 million, we will depreciate the machine as yearly goes, right? And we cannot just say, I spend 1 million on this machine, and I can make this as my cost for the current year. But in 2019, you can do this. If you buy equipment, the value is equal or less than 5 million, you can make the whole number as your year cost, which means you have a revenue for 5 million. You have a profit for 5 million, but you buy a new machine, which costs you 5 million. Your year income tax rate, basically, you don't have to pay anything. So it encourages the company to buy more equipment for their company, encourages the small business to expand instead of just collecting money. And so let's do a simple example. The company A and the company B. The company A has 5 million. Let's say the original pre-tax profit is 5 million for company A, same for company B. But the company B decides to buy equipment for 2 million RMB. And the company A decides, I don't want to buy anything. I'll just collect those money. And the company A's income tax will be 1,250,000. But for company B, he bought a 2 million equipment, which can be viewed as cost for the current year. Then his adjusted profit for the year will be 3 million. When his pre-tax profit is only 3 million, he only needs to pay 250,000. When we compare those two numbers, his income tax rate, income tax is 300,000. The difference is 950,000. Because they have the same profit, but their taxes is radically different. So you can see how eager the governments want a small company to expand to buy more equipment because they can save all the money for your own sake. And last but not least, we will talk about VAT. The VAT is a value-added tax. So what is the VAT? It's basically when you buy stuff from your suppliers, you get input VAT. When you sell stuff to your client, you have the output VAT. So that's why if you have a company, you must hear this from your clients. I want a VAT 发票. I don't want a 普通发票. I just want a VAT so I can get a deductible for my company. So the VAT tax rate is also changed. For selling the goods, it was 16%, and now it's become 13%. These policies start to action in this year at April. So we can really feel the change because when you issue 发票 on your 发票 machine, you can see the tax rate is different. So because the reduction in the VAT tax rate, it will become a little bit change for the companies. Okay, that's my presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Please feel free to ask Devin or
Peng Ling.
Peng Ling.